Welcome to this edition of Peak Performers Podcast with your host, Thor Conklin. Thor will be sharing the necessary tools, strategies, and psychology you'll need to become a peak performer in any area of your life or business.
Welcome back to another episode of the Peak Performers Podcast. Today we have a couple in studio or in their own studio. They are an amazing couple. There was no arguing. There was no fighting before today's show. So this is good. But there's a here. This is Kerry and Adam Anderson. They're the founders of Whole Life Entrepreneurship, and their business almost ended their marriage. They struggled for years with feelings of isolation, stress, and fear, all while running a business and a family. Nobody listening today that has a family and a business can relate to any of those topics. Just kidding, obviously. Running a business puts a lot of strain on relationships in the house and out of the house, and very difficult to balance everything. So I'm really interested to hear some of your thoughts on this. Through a great deal of hard work, self-awareness, and willingness to start by working on themselves, congratulations, it always starts there, they got through it. Kerry wrote a book called In Bed with the Business, the Entrepreneurial Spouse's Survival Guide. Whoa, that is a task in itself. You know, It's funny because I coach entrepreneurs, and it's like, you know, would you mind just having like a conversation with my spouse? Because I don't think she really gets me. I was like, I don't even get you. So you're hard enough to coach. I can't imagine just living with you.
I know, right?
But, you know, it took you from the conflicts and the difficulties in working in the business. And apparently you've discovered some things and you've got some lessons to teach us. So give us some background. Why'd you write the book? What's the book about? What are the lessons? Break it down for us.
Well, Adam at the time had run a cybersecurity business for, I don't know, maybe 8 or 10 years at the time. And at the same time, he was starting to be the entrepreneur in residence at Clemson University. So he was working with a lot of young entrepreneurs. And it was really funny because the same question was posed to him. Can you have a conversation with my wife and talk her into letting me put all our money in this venture or whatever that we're like going to bet the horse on? And so he would bring me along to dinner or drinks or whatever, and I would kind of talk these young wives off of the ledge a little bit. And so I started saying, oh man, I should just write a book. And one day I just wrote out an outline and it kind of took off from there.
Interesting. You know, it's so different, interesting because I owned a business, went through a divorce because I didn't have the stuff figured out. I made all the mistakes. And what I realized is that entrepreneurs, specifically men, have a little bit more of an aggressive stance. It's like, hey, let's bet the house. And one of the core needs of feminine energy, so I'll just say for a moment, the wife is security. And when you disrupt that house, the roof over their kids' heads, you are playing with fire.
I would completely agree.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah. Security was definitely one of the things that was a big hot topic for us. And for a while, it even got to the point a little bit where he just kind of wouldn't tell me things. So it kind of snowballed from there. And that's really where a lot of our problems started happening.
Lack of communication.
A lack of communication.
Well done, Adam.
Exactly.
Winning. So that's the thing is like some of the lessons learned is we decided, look, in order to remove being alone, stress, and scared, and that spells ass, by the way, ASS, that's easy to remember, is the 3 C's, which are chill, communicate, and community.
Right.
And the fact that I was such a bad communicator, I was really good at having fun. Like Kerry and I had a great, fun relationship. I just wouldn't talk to her about things.
Right.
And I wasn't trying to, in my head, I was protecting her. And we had a great counselor said, hey, looks like you're protecting yourself right out of a relationship. Looks like you're heading to divorce. So yeah, you hit it on the head there, Thor. It is, communication and speaking the unspoken expectations that we all have, but never talk about.
Yeah. Yeah. It's difficult for men to open up and we want to protect our spouse. It's like, no, I don't want to worry you. I got this, it'll all be okay. Just, I know it looks a little rocky right now, but there's a light at the end of the tunnel. And she's saying, yes, I know it's a train coming right at.
But we're going to catch that train to the next station, and it's going to be so good.
Yeah. And one of the things that happened was there was a time when Adam tried to shift the company kind of more away from himself, and he put some people in positions of power, and they showed up at my house one day, and they were like, we're going to need for you to sign right here. I'm like, sign right here for why? Because we need to put your house up for collateral as, we are going to get a loan for the business based on your house. And no, I'm not signing that. I'm not putting my kids' home up for collateral. If you guys have a line of credit or something that you can do that with, maybe you should go look at some other options. But my house is not one of them. So we have really had to create a process for how we communicate about these things, because I don't need to know every single little bit of minutia about every single business, but I do need to at least have some overview of what's going on, because God forbid something happened to him. I mean, then it would be a matter of me trying to figure out how we survive from there. So
what came out of it? What was the compromise, or what did you agree on as far as, hey, this is how we're going to communicate. This is what you need to tell me. The small little details I don't need to know about, but certainly you putting our house as collateral might go into the category of you might want to tell me.
Oh, well, I mean, that falls in the same category as one day I lost $2 million and didn't. I mean, that doesn't. When do you just bring that up? Like, hey, would you pass the salt? And by the way, so Kerry constructed something called the family business meeting. And this is going to sound like your weekly scrum, your weekly stand-up. This is the same thing we do in every business. She's just started taking things we did in business and incorporating them into our family. So it's a 15-minute meeting when you get it right, but when you first start, it's 2 hours of intense conversations. But it's just a checklist. Talk about money, talk about the business, talk about the family, talk about the home, talk about the schedules. As a matter of fact, we found scheduling was the number one problem. So we start off every family business meeting looking at our Google calendars for the week ahead and getting on the same page about who's doing what, who's picking up the kids, how can I support Kerry, how can Kerry support me? And that one thing, if you do nothing else, if you just look at each other's calendar once a week, man, it clears up so many communication issues.
Yeah. I implemented the same thing that you're talking about. Unfortunately, too late in the process. I learned that actually sometimes women actually plan the divorce years in advance. I didn't know that. I found that out, after going through a divorce. I'm like, oh, yeah, she's been thinking about this for many, many years. I'm like, really? I was like, I was implementing all these things, and it was a family meeting. And same thing, all those topics. And the one thing that I added is, how are we doing as a couple? And, how was last week? And how can I make you feel even more loved, adored, and taken care of in the following week? So it was a kind of an honest, brutal conversation sometimes, because it gave you a chance. It was a zone where there was no judgment, but it was like, hey, when you said you were going to pick up the kids here and you didn't, I was really counting on you, and that really disappointed me. So I was like, all right, make a note of that. I've got to be better at that for next week. So it was always about that constant and never-ending improvement, and how could I show up next week a little bit better as a man, as a husband, and as a father than I did last week.
Yeah, I love that example of we didn't pick up the kids, because
that happened to us last week.
Yeah, but here's the difference. when we're communicating well and we're doing this business together, this movement together, when we both forget about the kids. Right. Now it's just
now it's both of us.
Now it's like, get in the car and drive, go, right? And we panic together.
That's good. That meeting, though, we have kind of a built-in segment that is a time for affirmation. We try and do that part first. And then maybe a clearing statement. Like, I really appreciated when you got up and went to pick up that kid that we forgot.
Yeah.
I think that there's a better way that we can manage this going forward. Maybe if we put this in on a timer or whatever, maybe we can manage it better. So we kind of try and build in that to the meeting as well. That way we clear it out there before it escalates, because 3 months of that is going to be a complete come apart when it happens and I just snap and then all hell breaks loose. So we really try and kind of get ahead of it before it turns into a conflict.
I'm going to ask a personal question here.
Okay.
Did you find that when you were having the issues and you weren't communicating in the business, what was happening with the intimacy within the marriage? Was there a noticeable change to it? Was there, Adam?
I'm really there. Yeah, I'm really plugged into that question. If I have an emotional reaction to that, it's a direct correlation to her feeling of safety, trust, and support to intimacy, right? Because I can't remember who said it. I'm going to make the quote up. For guys, sometimes it's a sprint, and the gun fires and I'm ready to go. But for a woman, it's more like a marathon, and it's a longer term. So if I have been slowly betraying small trusts and doing the death of 1,000 cuts, there is no way that turns into intimacy at the end of the day.
Right. So for you, it's always been a matter of it's a place you can just snap your fingers and go to. For women, oftentimes, I think that it's an emotional journey. I can't get there if that journey has been wrought. So,
and I understand that, because we're wired differently. We just, all we need is a place.
Right.
There's got to be a reason. And for women, it starts in the mind, not the body. And for men, it starts in the body, ends in the body, and the mind doesn't even have to be present.
Yeah, pretty much.
If you're stressed out at work and everything's not working at work, right, Adam? It's like, well, shoot, this is, I'm ready to be intimate. It's like, let me get my mind off work.
Yeah. Intimacy is a release of some of the other things that are like going through your head, right? Because you're 100% present in that moment, and it can be escaped from all of the other stressors, where I find that that's not the case for the other side of the relationship, right?
Exactly.
In all the coaching that we do, we have 4 pillars. One's the business, one's the mental, one's the physical, and the other's relationships. And I always say, look, if things are not working well at home, and the relationships is a broad category for us. We talk about relationships with employees, with family, of course, spouses fit in there. But if that's not working, you're winning in all the other categories, you're going to lose.
Yep.
Right.
So you've got to have a strong foundation. And that relationship piece is key to it, because when things are cooking at home, how do you show up Monday morning? You're on fire. You're energized. You're ready to go. If things aren't, I just got a phone with a client today that's going through a very difficult time at home, and he's like, Thor, he goes, I can't focus. And here's a dude that's making close to $5 million a year take home, and he's like, every second I'm not taken away, I'm losing hundreds of thousands of dollars in a day by not being on.
Yeah. Absolutely. It bleeds into every other area of your life if you don't get ahead of it.
Yeah.
We had a romantic vacation to New York together to take a conflict resolution training course. This is how it goes now, right? This is what our life is as we become like just completely obsessed with how do you do this thing better. But there's one of the sections of this conflict resolution thing was the cost of a conflict. How do you take the friction between your relationships and your business and calculate a dollar amount that this conflict is costing you? And it's brutal, because that example you just gave where, when I'm not there, and it's not checking out, that's the worst thing. It's a reduction of your ability to be on your game, because you're going to make worse decisions than you would if you were on your game. There is a true cost to your business and to your family by not taking this stuff seriously.
Yeah. And if you're on the other side relationally, if you're not staying ahead of those things, sometimes just the wear down and the erosion of a relationship, that's not something you can build back up. it's very, very challenging. If you're not careful, it can just do damage that you can't make back.
Yeah. Now, I know you have the book. I don't know if you have some online courses as well. I think you do some in-person courses. Tell us a little bit about some of the resources that you have.
Yeah, so our favorite way of delivering resources is, of course, face-to-face. And so we do a number of workshops, we do a number of speaking gigs, and you can find all about those on our website, wlemission.com. But most of the time we find that people can't get there, right? And so we have produced a online class based off of our lecture series and our workshops, as well as a take-home workbook. So they're 90-day journaling, basically, on how do you implement the whole life entrepreneurship methodology at home. Mm-hmm. So a lot of take-home stuff, and we're focused on 90-day sprints. You should be able to do the thing, bring it into your life, and get immediate value. But it's repetition and sticking to the behavior.
Consistency.
Mm-hmm. That's what gets you the results over time.
Right.
Now, can someone do this by themselves? Let's say the husband's committed, but the wife's not, or the wife's committed, the husband's not. Can this be done in a silo, or is it only successful when it's done as a couple?
Ooh, do you want to jump on that one?
I think 100% yes, because here's the thing. When we were in a really, really, really ugly, dark place, it just did not seem to matter how many times I brought to Adam, look, we are really, really in trouble. There was just such a division between us that we could not get over those hurdles. What ended up happening is it made me so resentful that it turned me into somebody that I didn't like. So when I started seeing that in the mirror every morning, I started to come around to the idea that, whoa, I am never going to change his mind. I'm never going to change him, period. I guess I need to start with me. So that kind of started this process of self-mastery, of mind hacking, to just get me to a place where I could accept him for who he was. I wouldn't really want to change him anyway if I could, maybe a few things. But mostly I want him as is. And so I started kind of wondering, well, would he want me as is? Because I kind of turned into something I didn't like. I couldn't really expect him to like it either. So I just started. And I think he just saw it and hopped on board. I didn't have to threaten him. I didn't have to jerk him around and or coerce him in any way. He just saw me happy and jumped on board. So I did a lot of work on my own without him. I 100% think that if somebody's going to start, it's got to start somewhere. So it might as well be you. So, I think that anything that you can do to show that you are moving towards an area of success in both ways, it speaks volumes to your partner.
I agree. Adam, you want to weigh in on that?
Yeah, we actually are. So we have a Facebook community that's a closed group that, of course, all your folks are invited to join. But we have individuals signed up without their spouses in there.
We have single people who are still looking for their one, and they themselves get value out of kind of delving into what it looks like to be healthy and successful on all fronts.
Yeah, the vast majority of the work is self-work up front. And the whole idea is, how do you become the best version of you that you love and accept, that you can then take into a relationship? Because until you've done that, garbage in, garbage out, right?
Yeah.
And to your business, because you want to be your best self for your customers, your employees, your shareholders. It's applicable across the board.
Yeah. If anybody ever tells me, you complete me, that's a big red flag for me.
That's a problem.
Oh, no, I don't want to complete you.
That's the problem.
You complete me.
Exactly. After I got divorced, it was like, look, I really want to figure this out. I never want to go through this pain again. And I started just devouring information. And I, this is who I'm looking for in a mate. Well, what is she looking for? Oh, she's probably looking for this. You know what, Thor? You got some work to do.
Right.
I did. And I continue to. back there's 20 copies of 5 love languages.
There you go.
It's like, look, if you don't understand your spouse's love language, how do you expect them to receive the love that you want to give them?
Yes.
It's like, and that's just one example. It just, constantly want to be, it's either growing or dying. You're either expanding or contracting. So, it takes time. And especially the other species. I mean, we may look similar. We are wired totally different.
Totally differently.
Totally different.
But there's good news here. You said something really important. Look, if you know you're the problem, then that's great because you're also the solution, right? And you took steps yourself personally to come into your next version of you, right? And to me, that's just so inspiring and uplifting that, I have the power, no matter where I am in life, no matter how successful I am, to reassess, improve, and enrich my life as long as I'm intentional at it and I'm authentic with that journey. And I think that's fantastic.
Right. You're writing the story.
Yeah.
I mean, there can be a twist in the story at any moment and the narrative changes.
Yeah. And it was interesting. It was a wake-up call. It was literally, I mean, I can recall the exact moment. As a matter of fact, I even have a picture of it. And I was separated at the time. I was staying at a friend's house and he had a 3-way mirror. So he had the mirror in the front, he had the mirror on the sides in the bathroom. And I looked to the side and I saw my side profile and I'm like, what happened? Because you don't see our side profiles, right? And I looked at this, I was like, what happened? And I realized that I had put on 40, 50 pounds. And I'm like, the woman I'm looking for may or may not, may have a different model of what they're looking for. And I'm like, at the very least, I got to get this stuff in, if for nothing else, just for me.
Right.
And, then I just went on a journey. I did 2 Ironmans last year. This year, I'm going to be on stage at a bodybuilding show. It's just a representation of what can we do with our minds, our bodies. One of the big things for me, if people that follow, is The Self-Made Man. It's a statue by Bobby Carlyle. And it's about a man carving himself out of a block of granite with a chisel and a hammer. Every day waking up to figure out how I can be a little bit better version of myself than I was yesterday. I fail miserably at it at times, but the trajectory is headed in the right direction.
Yeah.
As entrepreneurs, there's so much going on. There's so much pressure on you, and you really need to master this area of relationships, because if you don't, it will drag you down.
Yes, absolutely.
So that is great work that you guys are doing. So what's next for you guys?
Well, we've got a number of online summits coming up. We have been invited to be the guests at a couple of executive retreats. So we have one in a month. We got another in a couple of months. And then we're also doing a huge one out in Bangkok. So we are traveling all over the world, helping folks out. Kerry is releasing a updated version of our workbooks, and we are going to be launching a whole new version of the online content. So we do a one-on-one coaching practice for entrepreneurs, and that's just getting started up, where we meet with both the entrepreneur and the spouse. And surprisingly enough, we're finding a lot of co-owners. I've been doing this for a while now, and most of the time it has been the traditional man is the entrepreneur, the wife is, but as we go global with this thing, I am just floored by the variety of ways people are showing up to relationships inside of their business. And so being able to do this coaching practice, being able to do these workshops and connecting face-to-face with some of these people and inviting them into our community, I got to tell you, this is probably the best time I have had in my entire life. I'm just having a blast waking up every day, working with my wife. And you know what? It's blissful 100% of the time, Thor. There's not a single fight. Smooth sailing.
All you need to do is read the book.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
But it is interesting as we're going along, we're starting to really understand how the landscape of the family, as we have known it, is changing so much for business owners. A lot of the people that we are working with are these location independent people, and they're traveling all over the world oftentimes together or with their family. They're only in certain places for a certain amount of time. And it's amazing the different factors of stress and fear and lack of community that those people are facing now. So it's really important for us to continue to have these community conversations in our private community so that they are completely supported in that way, just because we felt such a lack of support when we were younger entrepreneurs. There was just a gap there. If we were ever on a business trip together, we were separated into like business owners and the wives. So this idea of everybody sort of having an understanding of what's coming, and like right now, Adam is spinning off 5 businesses, I think. I am only the CEO of one of them. So I still kind of have this sort of board position so that I have an understanding of what's going on in the others. And that gives me a little bit more power when before I felt sort of powerless and out of control and I had no idea what was going on. And again, that affects my sense of security as a wife and a mother.
Yeah, especially when he talks about $2 million loss over dinner.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's just a thing. It happens.
Listening on just the podcast and do not have the video, get the video and check out that live.
It's just $2 million. I mean, it's $2 million American dollars.
I lost like 980. So, I feel good now. Thank you for making my day.
Yeah.
Hey, look, there's somebody else out there who's lost a lot more. I realize I'm in the middle of the pack, right?
That's right.
We learned that was a lot of money to spend to have to learn those lessons.
Yeah, but
the only reason I can do my business.
Exactly.
I can coach other people today is because I went through that hell.
That's exactly right.
Right.
Because all my successes taught me a bunch. My failures, those were the real lessons.
Right.
Yep. Well, and it's super fulfilling being able to share this stuff, right? Kerry has put in a whole lot of work organizing the experiences that we went through so that we can deliver them in a succinct kind of way. And there's the 3 C's are chill, communication, and community. And we put together an assessment that you can take, and we'll get that on the landing page for you guys. And it just gives you a snapshot. Where do you fit in with enriching yourself? Because usually you're really good at 1 or 2 of these things, and then you got a blind spot. And, folks kind of get really good at chill. How do I fill myself back up? Then communication. And one of the things that are really lacking are a community, right? Especially when you hit a certain level of success. All of a sudden, your friends can't really respond. They can't resonate with where you are in your life. And you got to go and be intentional about building communities. I mean, we're really intentional when we hire people in our companies. Why are we less so when it comes to picking friends and peers that we spend time with?
Yeah. One of my favorite questions is, do you know what it's like not to be able to make payroll on a Friday? We don't, right? We don't have the same experience. You are not a business owner.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Regardless of what the business is. And I want to switch. We've got a couple minutes left here. And I know you have an extensive, which we didn't even go into, business background. With this business, what were some of the lessons that you learned along the way? What are some of the things that, if you were able to rewind the clock, you were like, oh, man, I wish I didn't do that one. Or some of the ones that's like, you know what? I didn't think this would really work, but man, this was just brilliant.
So the idea was how we approached this, right? We knew we wanted to touch as many people as we could, which meant we couldn't be the product, right? So the idea is, let's make sure that we're a lighthouse for other people's wisdom and then funnel it to the people who need it rather than try to stand up and say we're the subject matter experts. And I know that we've said that a lot here, that we've got a lot of wisdom, but the power of what I feel we're building now is making ourselves obsolete and funneling all this other wisdom to people. And so one of the lessons we started off being was, let's be the end all be all, right? Let's be the product. It's to be the Kerry and Adam show. I mean, honestly, It's fantastic. The Kerry Anderson show, you should catch it live. Tip your waitresses. It's great. But the lesson that we learned real quick was we cannot reach everybody that we want to reach if we don't find a way to get out of the way or to automate a lot of these things. So applying, I guess, 19 startups at this point where I've been a founder or key investor, applying automation, scalability, digital economy, and the channel programs where you're able to bring in other people who know what they're talking about.
Right.
It's the right way to do this kind of company.
Beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Guys, I absolutely loved having you on the show today and talking about all my painful past. That you cheered me up there.
That's why we're here, brother. That's why we're here.
But no, I really appreciate you both being on. Check out all the stuff in the bio. We'll have all the links to all the programs and everything. And thank you for joining us today. I know it took a while to get this on the schedule. Absolutely worth the wait. You two are amazing. And I really appreciate you spending time with us today.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thanks, Thor.
Thank you.